awesome projects that we've done in collaboration with the Forest Service, and I'm really excited for the students to share some of their hard work and projects. I'm gonna pass it over to Tim.
Hello, good afternoon. Not all of you may know who we are, but we are the Wrangell High School high schoolers. See up there, we took this photo this morning of all of us, so pretty cool. So this is a brief overview.
We almost forgot to introduce ourselves. I'm Nikolai Barton Sikiewicz, and I'm going into my senior year.
Hello, hi, I'm Killian Booker. I am also going into my senior year. I am William Connor Ashton, and I am going into my senior year. And I am Spencer Pettiker, going into my junior year.
And I'm Timothy Garcia, going into my sophomore year. So this is just a brief overview of what we're going to go over tonight. We have two keynote speakers, which is Tori Hauser over there and Brian Ashton, Adam Lowe right there. We will be going over the technology we use and how we use them, what they're used for, all of that fun stuff. We'll be going over past, present, and future projects and goals that we have, as well as in the very end, we have an audience Q&A, so please hold all of your questions until then. And now I'm going to pass it over to Adam.
Thank you, Tim, and thank you everybody for coming out tonight to see these individuals share. As you heard, my name is Adam Lau. I'm the director for the Upward Bound program and the University of Alaska Fairbanks T3 Alliance program lead. This is one of 10, Wrangell is one of 10 communities that we serve throughout the state of Alaska. Upward Bound is a program that traditionally focuses on helping first generation low-income students find a pathway to college. In this conversation and in some of the work that's been done over the past few years, I'd like to focus a little bit on what we also do with a program called Teaching Through Technology. Teaching Through Technology is a program, well, let me see if it's on the next slide here. Teaching Through Technology is a program which focuses on how we help students find a pathway to college. We know that it's important to study for academic things. It's important to do well on your SATs, to have good grades, but really going to college is about having a why and having something that you're really focused on or passionate about that you can engage with. So we put together a grant about 5 years ago that focused on finding out if growth mindset, technology skills, and community engagement opportunities would end up with helping students be successful in finding pathways to college. We tested this on all these different states with colored on. Those are known as the EPSCoR states, or the underserved states, when we look at our federal government and say which states get the least money overall. So you can see there's Louisiana down there, South Carolina, Idaho, and Alaska, those ones in there. What was powerful is that in all of these states and all of these programs, the recipe worked well. And at this point, what you're seeing here in Wrangell, the product that these students, after the grant is finished, is the kind of example that is gaining attention at our state and national levels. At the University of Alaska Fairbanks, where I'm coming from, there are people asking me, hey, how do you get students that are as engaged as these students that you're about to see tonight are? How do you help them when they get to college stay engaged so that they can find pathways so that when they're done, they go back to their home communities and they find opportunities to affect change and make a difference? That's what we're seeing here, and that's part of what I just really want to recognize and honor this group of students who've put this time and effort into it. And I don't want to forget to thank both Tori at the Forest Service and Brian and Michelle for making this last week's experience possible. Thank you guys so much for that. A little bit about this first key idea, growth mindset. It's oftentimes looked at in comparison to more of a fixed mindset. And the example I always love to think of is basketball. You know, those kids who try to shoot a basketball, I can't shoot a basketball, it's just not in me. Well, that is a mindset thing, and as students enter into especially technology or any sort of thing, coming and reframing that, having the chance to look at that and say, am I safe enough in this environment to make a mistake? If I miss that basketball when I shoot, am I going to be laughed at? So that's what Brian and Michelle and Heather and everyone who is in a facilitating role in one of these programs focuses on. The second thing is technology skills. And technology skills runs the gamut. You'll hear about the technologies that are being used here. And I would say that this group of individuals who are presenting today, they are pushing the envelope on what's been done in rural Alaska for utilizing the kind of tools that they've been using. So their tech skills are getting to the point where I'm ready for them to teach the rest of the state. All the other students that I've got in Fairbanks, all the other students at those other sites around Alaska, just how to use that stuff. And then that last bubble, the community engagement bubble, is the powerfulest one. It's the one where learning to listen to your community, to find out what are the things that we're curious about, and then taking those steps in a careful and non-judgmental way, trying to address those things. And this 5-step process is something that's been there. You first start by empathizing, learning to listen, then defining what the problem is, ideating, brainstorming some possible solutions, prototyping, and then testing in the end, and of course recycling it as it goes along. And that's happened here. And I commend the Forest Service and many other of the organizations in Wrangell for coming forward and saying, hey, I've got something I'd like to share. Because it takes a community to come forward and say, hey, we've got something, and we know you've got tech skills, we know you have a growth mindset, we know you can work on this, but to give up your problems and allow somebody to address them takes a community that's healthy. Ultimately, this is, you guys have all hopefully seen Star Wars. Some of the students that I showed this to this summer had never seen Star Wars, so it was a little bit of an eye-opener thing. But this journey that is depicted in so many of our movies, in so many of our cultures, in so many of our things is what ultimately happens as a student goes into their adult life or into that journey as they're transitioning out. And it's reflected in the kind of projects and in the kind of experiences that are had here. Call to adventure is somebody reaching out and saying, hey, things might be a little better if I tried to do something. It's a little bit hard. There's a crossing the threshold part where I don't know how I'm going to make this camera work. I don't know how I'm going to fly this drone without it crashing. I don't know how I'm going to do whatever. Those moments come where you want to quit. And it's that stubbornness of I'm going to keep going and get past that. And get past that to where I come back and, hey, now I've done it. Yes, I've got this skill. Yes. And now there's an opportunity to return to that community and affect change and share that with that community. And that's what I'm so excited for this group of students to be doing across the state of Alaska, across the country. All of those students at those other sites, some of you guys may know that 5 of these students joined us on a 5-week program to our 5-week Upward Bound summer program that went to Fairbanks for 3 weeks and then Maui for 2 weeks. And then another one took a trip to Denali National Park. And in all of those experiences, it was a coming together, meeting people from different places and having opportunities to learn from each other. Those experiences are the kinds of things that make lifelong friendships and lifelong impacts that help make decisions about coming back to your community, making a difference, making it a better place. And in the end, that's kind of what we are. So without any further ado, I think I do have our heroes that I'd like to hand it over to, but I know that I'm giving the mic over to Tori for just a second to introduce herself and her role in this whole thing. Tori.
Thank you very much. I think usually I'm the most energetic and excited person in the room, but you might have me beat tonight. But I would like to say welcome and thank you all for being here. I'm really lucky to represent the Forest Service in this program. The Forest Service, our role has been, I know you're going to find this hard to imagine, but the government has some problems, maybe some small problems, and we thought, hey gosh, these students, they could bring their skills and they could help us try to figure out ways to do things better. Some examples are that we have some trails out on the forest that are not well marketed. People don't know about them, and they have no idea how to get there. Even our outfitter guide didn't know how to get there, to bring the students there. So now, with their help, these are up online, and you can just go to Google Maps that everybody knows how to use, and you can see the trail, you can see what to expect, and you can have a really positive experience, which I, at the agency, could never have done myself. So I'm pretty excited to be here and to help offer more projects and things where students can learn, come together, and see what kind of work that they can do in the future for careers, and how they can apply their skills to help their community. Thank you.
So, we're back with the group, the Wrangell Boys, whatever you want to call it. I just want to give you a brief overview of sort of our favorite technology that we've been using over the past year or so, and also a little of how we use them. So, from your left to right, we will start with the classic GoPro. You all know what a GoPro is. There's one right there recording this. Reminds me I should get back in the shot. But yeah, it's the Max, which is the fancy one that has two cameras that can take a 360-degree omnidirectional view, which is what we use to pretty much Google Street View map the entirety of the trails that we've been on. And then up there, in that little weird box thing with the yellow thing, that is a 3D printer. And I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory, but we can make literally whatever we want, which is really cool for very niche things that you need for a certain project. Let's say that you're missing a part in this set wind turbine that you have. You're like, oh, how do I fix that? Oh, I'll just print the screw for it or something. So yeah, I actually made it a wind turbine completely out of a 3D printer, into filament. So it has a lot of versatility to it. And then that weird box thing right there, that's a laser cutter, which you put some wood in there, like 3 millimeters thick, or some cardboard even, and you just cut out, which works really good for forming three-dimensional diagrams, which me and Tim actually used to show an electrical grid, an actual working electrical grid. So yeah, very versatile as well. And then up there, it's a drone. Yeah, it's a drone. But it is a DJI branded drone, which is our favorite because it is sort of the point where it's mid-range enough to not be too expensive, but also have 4K technologies and really good battery life. By good, I mean 20 minutes, but it's something, right? But yeah, we use those a crazy amount. And then of course that motherboard looking thing is actually like a motherboard, but it's a Raspberry Pi. It's basically a cheap, small computer that you can use. You can just have it run a basic operation. You can have it network. You can have a NAS server, which is basically a server. It's just a giant remote storage device, which we did too. But yeah, you can use those in a variety of different things. We've been using them for years. They're great. I actually recommend purchasing one if you know how to use one. They're really good. Anyway, I will pass it on to Nikolai to discuss some more of our past and present projects.
So before I start talking about our experience at LeConte, a recurring goal that we have at doing these projects and adventures is that our goal is to have fun during these. Even though we're serving our community doing serious things, we need to, shake it off for a little bit sometimes while we're still learning. So our LeConte trip, this was basically us dipping our toes into the world of making promotional videos and drone related projects around here. So our goals were to make a promotional video for Alaska Vistas because they did not have one before we did this, and of course to have fun. This is our first experience ever as a group doing a promotional video. And this is also our second drone project. So some challenges were we couldn't fly drones near the glacier just because my drone personally, if I tried to fly it, it would get blown away like a leaf in the wind. We also had some overexposure issues on some footage. We forgot to check the drones beforehand, and later we actually solved those problems with editing. That was one of the things we learned. This was also my first time flying a drone off of a boat, and it was pretty nerve-wracking at first, but I got the hang of it after a while. So, some takeaways. We need to check our drones before we fly, and also the weather before we fly, because those are two things, once we're in flight, they're kind of hard to control. I also, while I was flying off the boat, I forgot to unlock the distance limit on my drone, which I realized was from where the drone took off from, rather than from my controller. So my drone ended up stopping in midair as the boat was going full speed, and I kind of panicked a little bit, but I managed to save it. In total, we gained more experience with drone flying, and we demonstrated that we can make promotional videos for our local businesses. So now for some photos that we took here. These are some seals resting on an iceberg. This is our beloved driver, Sylvia, explaining to us the history of the Wrangell Narrows. And this was actually a drone shot that I took while we got to the glacier. As you can see, this iceberg is massive compared to our little boat right there. And actually, this is the first time I ever entered a photo contest, and I managed to win first place with this photo, so that's pretty cool. I'll hand it off to Killian to talk about our next adventure at Burke Bay.
Thank you, Nikolai. All right, so if you look to that picture, the only picture up there, that is Burke Bay, and that is where we also docked, and it is right outside the cabin. You can't see it, but the objectives of this were to do a condition report for the cabin trail and to see if anything needed to be fixed, which is why we were there. We also want to do some sightseeing and to do a promotional video for this trip, and it kind of corresponds together if you think about it, because both of them, well, you have to have pictures and videos, and we had a lot of fun doing it. Our challenges were our drone batteries. This one was kind of hard because we had to rationalize them since we're in an isolated location where not a lot of energy is around. And yeah, we just made sure that we didn't go in the same place twice, and to, you know, fill up on storage on our drones. We had communication, and yeah. Another thing that was a challenge is tide. The tide by the river, so there's a river by the flats, and apparently it corresponds to the tide. We did not know this, and we almost got stuck doing a creative mind thing that we were doing. And yeah, we decided to go on a very high rock just to look around and to embrace our surroundings and to write in this small little notebook. And soon the water began to rise, and we're like, oh cool, nice. And a little bit, after a few more minutes, it started to rise more and more until it actually started to go inland. And all of us, all the Wrangell boys tried talking to the people leading this trip, and they told us, oh, it's fine, it'll just pass over. And a few minutes later, it was 5 feet above the land, and we had to swim in it, so. Very glad we brought our swimming shorts that day. Another challenge that we did was the promotional video. Unlike LeConte, this was a promotional video, and this is the second time we have done this. When we were on this trip, it was a little hard because of how much footage we took on this trip, and it was kind of hard to know what had to be cut and what had to be put on, and it took a while, but the finished product looked pretty nice. And the achievements was, this was the Wrangell boys' first camping trip, which was a really big thing because this was pretty new to us. Well, not actually, we've all camped before, but as a team, this was new to us. And this was super important because for the Forest Service, this was an opportunity to work with them more often because they know our standards and how we work, and I guess we know how we work too from this. And yeah, this was also our first condition report, and this was also pretty big because of the Forest Service and because the Forest Service needed to have help with what needed to be shown with graffiti or any damage on the trail. And yeah. This is Birk Bay. This is the cabin. Oh yeah. The importance of this, sorry, I forgot there were words. Yeah, I kind of said everything. But in the future, there will be a 360 video tour, so you can go on either Google Maps or Google Earth and click on where it is on the location and see it in 3D. So yeah, that's really cool. This is Birk Bay, and overseeing the tree line, that is the flats and the creeks. And that is Birk Bay. You can see that the trail goes along the shore, so it can help with boat docking, which I think is a really cool idea because not a lot of people think of that. So yeah, there you go. I'll now pass the time on to Will.
Thank you, Killian. So our next adventure takes us to the 4th of July. And we did 2 activities in total. First, we participated in the parade, and we flew our drones through. Second, we introduced drone flying to other people who came to our stand, both young and old. And while there were a couple of challenges, including cheeky youth, we achieved a lot that day. First of all, we promoted Upward Bound, and we basically showed that STEM clubs are alive and well within the community of Wrangell. As said before, we also introduced drone flying, and might I make it very clear that there were no drones crashed in the process. Now, this was an important day because we were showing that kids make an important asset with technology, and that could just be through flying drones or anything. Sorry, I'm just a little nervous. So basically it was to make a positive impression on the community and show that kids are beneficial when they use technology such as drones. And this could help through aiding other organizations like the Forest Service or just small businesses in Wrangell through our services. We also learned critical thinking, and we also learned how to address situations that might require attention. One particular example is when when we were helping this one kid, show the controls for the drones, he got a little too close to the power lines. And so with quick thinking and keeping our composure, we quickly addressed the problem and all was well. And I am very optimistic, and I think it is fair to be because I think there's a lot of hope for STEM programs, not just Upward Bound. And drones can be a good way to carry through with that, but that's just a tool for advancing STEM technologies. And I will pass this on to Tim.
Okay, so the first trip that we went on recently was to Kunk Lake, which you can see the first 2 photos. The first one is of the actual cabin, which is 3-sided, sadly. And then the other one is just of the little lake that we were at. So the main accomplishments that we were trying to solve here were getting 360 view of the entire trail and campsite, which will be actually published soon. It is uploaded, but it'll take a few days to get onto the internet. And also to capture the entirety of the trail, capture the beauty, and put it on the internet, which hasn't really been marketed in the past. We're also trying to review the condition, make sure everything is in working order, and being able to rent out to charters and other people that want to go there. The stakeholders, which are the people that are affected by this, was the Forest Service, so they don't have to spend their time and resources sending people out there that may not be as trained as we are at the current moment. And so we can just go out there for them and do it and also have fun at the same time. The other stakeholders are the outside tourists that want to come, have a nice escape into the wilderness, nice nature walk, as well as local residents that may not know about all the recreational opportunities within this town. The achievements that we got was we have uploaded the Google Street View, as I previously mentioned. We have gathered a bunch of info and found some problems with the trail and the campsite that we addressed to the Forest Service this morning. And since it's been a year since most of us have done this job, we needed to refresh our mind on the technical skills that we needed to actually do this job. So we spent this trip refreshing our minds and trying to get into the workflow that we had last year. As well as this was my first time that I've ever done a bear box hang, which was very fun and slight hiccups, but overall got the box hung up and no bears were in sight. Lastly, we had some nice campfire cooking moments, which were fairly fun, just cooking, sauteing some vegetables. This is the promotional video of Kunk Lake. So the second more recent trip we went on was to Steamer Bay. Primary objectives was to capture some footage and make another promotional video similar to that. So that was very fun to do. We also needed to review the condition, make sure everything is there, that nothing's broken, and that also finally that it was ADA accessible, which thankfully that we went, that the doors were not ADA accessible, so which is disabilities. Like say anyone who needs a wheelchair to get places, there is a ramp that is ADA accessible, but sadly the doors are not up to regulation. The challenges we had was the creation of fire. We had the bright idea of making fire by ourselves using some pieces of cedar wood that we found along the trails that we went on there. That took a good hour and a half of our time. Very fun thing to do, but took a while, not gonna lie. Apparently using ancient technology to do this. The achievements we have from this one is creating fire with the local cedar. We gathered info for the Forest Service on like the different conditions of the outhouse, the woodshed, and the actual cabin itself. And then we got Google Street View, which right now you can go and see. This is the one we have uploaded and fully published. The reason it was important is we needed info for the Forest Service because we were contracted out once again. We wanted to promote the Tongass Forest because it is one of the largest it is the largest rainforest in America. And we also wanted to make sure that it was cabin ADA accessible, which we found out it's not really. And then the stakeholders are the Forest Service, so they could get valuable information with spending less resources, and once again, local and outside residents that want to go on a nice nature escape. The things we learned was how to effectively gather the info that we needed and efficiently, so we didn't spend as much time as last year trying to go through everything, going through the mission checklist, so we got that very efficient and effectively. We also had a good hour where all of us were sitting, carving, learning new techniques about carving, and just experiencing how what it means to actually carve and go into nature. We also made did bow drill fire creation. That was very fun. We also learned more about campfire cooking, how to make potatoes on a campfire, brownies, all that fun stuff. And then once again, we learned efficiency on how to be quick and good at our job. And for the future, we will take this newfound knowledge and go and do our job better at different campsites and trails. This is the Steamer Bay cabin. You can see the woodshed in the back, which is fully stocked wood, thankfully. Next slide. And this is an aerial shot that we took there next to the bay and cabin. This is our We had the lucky experience to see 3 humpback whales bubble feeding outside of the, like about 2 kilometers outside of our thing. So we first thought that it was just some gunshots. We're like, oh, that's nothing. But it kept recurring about 10, 15 times. So someone checked it out, and it was humpback whales feeding fairly close to us. So we sent out a drone to capture these beautiful photos of them bubble feeding. And this is, as you can see, the Steamer Bay cabin on Google. Thank you.
So, looking towards the future in the next coming months, I mean, pretty soon future, not total future, like for next year, just so you have a gauge. We have many things going on. So first of all, we are going to learn how to, first of all, and actually do aerial drone mapping of the cabins and surrounding areas. So how we do this is we would take an object, let's say a meter stick or a yardstick, paint it purple, bright pink, I don't know, whatever you can see, put it on the ground, take a shot from probably 50 yards up, and just copy paste it until you count it all out. So it's a really rudimentary process, but it works, that's the funny part. But it would create many benefits, as you would see here. It provides precise measuring data. So if you want to go in with any development in the future, you have something to reference, which also leads me into saying it creates an easy to read reference sheet for anyone who wants to look at the area plans. So you don't just have like, oh, this cabin somewhere there. No, the cabin's right here. It's 25 feet long by 30 feet, and the overall plot is around 50 feet by 50 feet. It's all there. The information's there, which is wonderful, gotta say. And then, of course, we're going to move on to trail documentation. This is what we've already been doing with Google Street View and the GoPros. So we have plans to go on a few trails I'll discuss in the next slide, as well as, yeah, I had nothing to say there. But yeah, some benefits to this would be recording damages that have been done. Since there are, I mean, it does get windy. You all remember November 30th of last year, right? Yeah, it does get windy here. So if any trees fall down on these trails, then, oh, we know that right here it's cut off, but we don't have the tools to do it. You can document that, you can pinpoint exactly what it is, because the GoPros have nice GPS built into it, so you can just look at where it is on the map, which is great. And you can take a chainsaw, cut it all up, it's done. But it also records how the trail looks. And that's important because in maybe 15 years, you go in and make sure it's all up to code. And, oh wait, that curves way over there. That doesn't seem right. You consult the Google Street View that we took and say, oh, it just cut through here. It's just been overgrown. So we have a nice, once again, reference sheet for all of the trails. And it's nice because it's interactive. You can even put on a VR headset and look around like you're actually there. It also provides good depth as well as scale. So yeah, that's just a couple benefits that the 360 tracking has. And so the actual trails themselves, one of them is going to be Rainbow Falls, which you all know, 4 Mile, right? And so we're going to create a full 360 Google Street View blue line for that. And that basically just entails us going up there probably every 50 feet, you know, that's how the process works. And then you can click through, which would be great for publicity because gotta love publicity, right? And so when tourists come here, they look on Google because they love Google, they love the corporations, they look at it and they're like, I know how to use this. So they see it on there, it's like, hey, there's reviews, there's like 4.7 stars, that's pretty good. Let's take a look at this trail. And they're like, oh, there's no information here. So, but now there is. That's the wonderful part. Now there is. You can look and see, oh, this is what the trail looks like. Oh, it's a little rough. I don't want to take my 2-year-old on this, which I don't think you should do anyway, but anyway, yeah, it'll also promote the Tongass rainforest, which is really our main goal because it's all around us. It's literally like a mile that way. You can just jump on in it, and it'll bring people here, which will then stimulate the economy, which will then give money to us, which will then actually give money to the school so we can do more of this stuff. And yeah, it just, all around, really good cycle. So yeah, and then moving on to Pat's Lake, it'll be a little different. Now, the Forest Service, as I do believe and know it, it's a fact, they recently acquired it. So that means they can do what they want with it. That means opening it up for public use, making it commercial, making it its own district, I guess. I'm not a zoning commissioner. But yeah, we will basically take aerial map of the area, and then basically zone it all out, measure it all, get the correct dimensions, and then everything's there for if anyone wants to use it, if anyone needs to look at it, which will be great, as well as for the government, so they can like consult it if anything changes, as well as, I mean, satellite shots, they're not very good here. I mean, they're okay, but it's like 3 pixels, let's face it. It's not like chat. Geography nerds, right? But yeah, we can also, if the water level recedes, we can check on it, make sure that climate change isn't too bad here, which hasn't been yet, growth mindset. But yeah, it's all data collection at the end of the day. So, shifting gears a little bit, we're going to dive into our journey through the commercial drone license, which, I mean, it seems boring, and it is, and it's also really cool for some people who are into this stuff. I know the weirdos, right? But yeah, it's called the Part 107 certification. And this is called this because it stems from the Section 107 of the FAA regulations, which basically just entails all the stuff here, but if you get the certification, you can do all that. So like, no flying at night, that's under 107. Well, with this, you can fly at night, as long as you have, of course, the correct lighting on your drones and all that, but duh. But yeah, you can also move over people and vehicles without a waiver. You still need their consent, though, which is very important. And you can now, most importantly to us at least, you can make money off of your drone operation and flight operations. So that means if you want to survey real estate, which is a very big business, as you all know, and map it all out, then yeah, you can get paid for that legally and get taxed on it legally. So yeah, but most importantly, I said that was most importantly, but realistically, this is most importantly. It gives you credibility. It gives you the certification. It gives you the title, if you will. You get a PhD. It's like, hey, I trust that guy. This is the equivalent. Not really, but it's close enough. You get the gist. But yeah, if you say, oh, I want someone to go out with a drone, take some cool photos and stuff with my very nice drone that I bought because I'm super rich, I'm Jeff Bezos, and I just want someone to take cool photos with that. I don't know how to use it. They say, oh, I want you. You've flown a drone, right? Yeah, I've flown a drone. And that can mean anything. That can mean anything. We've flown a drone, technically, right? All of us. But does that mean I've flown 2 hours 5 years ago at summer camp? Or does that mean I have actively flown drones every day for the past 10 years? Because I'm just good like that. But yeah, if you say, oh, I have the Part 107 certification, and they know what that means, they're like, oh, that takes a lot of studying. That is really good. It's like getting Adobe certified and working for Facebook. Essentially, yeah, you can have a safety net, as well as saying, yeah, I can fly over people, I'm not gonna crash it, I know what I'm doing. It just gives you that safety net. It's really great, really great. But yeah, overall, next slide. I would like to close out this presentation, the initial presentation, and give special thanks to the Wrangell High School, as well as the public school district here, as well as Brian Ashton right there in the middle, Heather Howe, our upper bound coordinator for Wrangell, and our science teacher, which is great, as well as the family and friends of the program and our wonderful students here to provide the students to do the stuff, as well as the support that we all need. Let's face it, we do. And I would like to open up the floor for a nice Q&A, ask questions, anything, and we'll try to give you a good answer for it. Any takers?
Yeah, I have a question. So when you earn or somehow apply or get this drone license here in 107, right? Do you also have to have some sort of insurance in case something unusual happens while you're using this equipment?
Now, okay, if you're going to actually make a business out of this, then yeah, you're probably going to need business insurance and stuff. But if you have this and you say, oh, I just fly drones, I contract, then I'm pretty sure you can just say, I just fly drones, and you don't really need insurance for it. Unless you have one of those like $20,000 like ultra wide drones with like 20 different rotors, which are very expensive and can cause a lot of damage, then yeah, I think it would be wise to get insurance for that, but it's not required.
Also on top of that, most drone companies also offer insurance plans for their specific drones.
Anyone else? Yes.
So you guys have been working with the Forest Service. Is there any other agencies that have solicited your guys' expertise, such as like Fish and Game or like National Marine Fisheries or NOAA or anything like that?
Now, we haven't had any of those three offers, although that is something we should look into, right guys? Thanks for the idea. But we have worked with the United States Forest Service, but as well as a couple private companies like Elasta Vistas for promotional content, which we can pretty easily do with these. But it is something to look into for sure. Yes.
You mentioned Google Street View, but I thought on Google Maps you could like pick out a place in the ocean and then show the video from that or a photo from that. Have you done that?
That specific, I think you're saying that like you can just go anywhere and click Street View and you have the.
No, I'm just
basic-
saying that when I checked out Google Maps about a decade ago, they showed like videos of people in certain latitudes and longitudes on the ocean, and then posted those on Google Maps.
Okay, yeah, I know what you're talking about. Cool. Yeah, that is also a possibility, actually taking the video and making it 360-degree view, or just having the video up on Google. And we can do that. That's definitely a possibility. We can provide that, especially with the river over here, just put on the boat. Yes?
So I wanted to say that we were lucky enough with Forest Service to acquire with our partners some RAC Resource Advisory Council funding, which is what supported our portion of this project. And it goes for the next 3 years. We're very happy about that. So I want to thank our local Resource Advisory Council for supporting this work that's being done.
Awesome. So, yes?
Did you guys get videos of the whales feeding?
We did get videos of that, and I can email you personally. But yeah, it'll be up on YouTube shortly on our official channel. It's called Upward Bound Wrangell. You just look that up, and our Kunk Lake promotional video as well as our Steamer Bay promotional video are on there, and more content in the future. So it'll also be like, if you want it for service, we can hyperlink it to your website, and it'll just be there for reference. But yeah, the videos will be up soon.
I'd just like to say the videos aren't as smooth as like a cinematic movie, but I mean, I was a bit excited when filming those. I've never seen anything like that before, but I mean, you get to see the whole thing. I even got it on video where they're, they make the bubble circle and they come up through the middle, and it's really awesome. I never thought I would even see that going on this trip, but I guess, yeah.
Yeah, once in a lifetime experience. Yes.
I've, in the past, planning a trip or whatever, just looking at the Forest Service recreation website. Oh, where is this cabin at? And they got it on the base of a mountain, when you know it's down in the bay, or maybe it's even in the wrong bay, and there's a lot of errors and trails that are just a straight line to who knows where. Are you gonna link or provide a link, not just put it on Google Maps, because there's a lot of information about these recreational features on the Forest Service website, but their maps suck. And you're not gonna be doing the whole forest or even the whole district. Can you at least use your lat-long condition? And I know that they have everything back at Kansas City or wherever the heck, and you can't access it, but is there any way of using where you have gone and digitized the trail, or basically, Google Earth the trail and linking it to the Forest Service website so that they have it in the right place in the Forest Service website?
Yeah.
You have Tori answer.
Yeah, you want to answer?
The answer is yes, but I don't actually know how, but that's the goal. That's why we're working with them.
Yeah, we recognize the problem and that our maps are not good and they're archaic and old and inaccurate. And so we are hoping very much to be able to take this much better updated information and integrate it into our Forest Service maps. How and when, that part I'm not sure about. But yeah, I hope that we can get it done, and soon. especially for Bird Bay and Steamer at least.
I know a few years ago when I was asking about it, and because we were planning a big trip by boat and whatnot, and well, it doesn't matter. And I go, if I'm out in a boat and I actually want to use a cabin, I need to be able to find it. And if it's a quarter-mile away on your map, and even your lat long that you show for it, how am I going to find it?
Yeah, I love your question.
So,
Yeah.
so basically, the kids will also provide all the raw data to the Forest Service, because it's being collected for the Forest Service. So then the Forest Service can in turn pick it up the region where it can be made accessible to the right department and utilize it as you see that.
Yeah, government websites. Yes.
My question's actually more for this gentleman here. Are you guys gonna be doing anything in the future for, say, like maybe not sixth graders, but like seventh, eighth graders to kind of get them engaged into really wanting to participate in this program so that it can grow here? Because Killian's brothers that are coming up in middle school absolutely love all of the tech stuff that he does, and they're very tech savvy as well. And they're going into sixth grade and they're still a little squirrely, so I understand not wanting to deal with sixth graders. But I was thinking like maybe, introducing it during eighth grade year or something to kind of get them, engaged so that they'll want to participate with this program so that it can grow. Because a lot of kids just don't know where to.
Yeah, absolutely.
How to start. Yeah, entry level kind of, this is what we're doing, and kind of get them engaged and hook them in.
Totally. It's not something we currently have plans for, but we have tested middle school programming in Cordova, a community very similar to Wrangell. So it's not out of the realm of possibilities.
Okay.
Definitely always thinking about how to build the pipeline better. So
Right.
by the time students get to high school, they can do fun stuff like this.
Right.
So definitely something we should keep thinking about. Yeah, middle school kids would love this kind of stuff.
Yeah, they would. They really would.
Great, well, actually, good question. Yes.
I have two parts to the question. First, how long, like I noticed you told me about this cabin 4 miles from here that's like a waterfalls cabin. How long would it take you as a team now, all spooled up and ready to go, to like walk out and get a 360 tour of that? And so that's the first part, like how long? And then the second part is, can you make like some kind of a tutorial how to make that kind of a thing so that this kids in Seward or Haynes or Cordova or wherever can kind of follow in your footsteps? Can you make it easy for teaching the skill set that you've got there?
Well, I'm gonna answer your second one first. And there are tutorials on the internet now, but I know what you're saying with like sort of like youth-centered, upward bound, like just so it's like in the network, right? So yes, that is a possibility, because like there are certain software that we use that are very accessible as well as not too insanely out there, and providing like the perfect things for, trail mapping realistically, up and down all over the place. But yeah, that is definitely a possibility. And your first question, when do you want it? Realistically, if all these guys are cool, we can literally go out whenever and do it. It only takes like, the hiking experience adds on like half the time to it. It's just like 1.5 times longer of a hike. That's, it's not too hard.
Can you talk about the processing?
The data side.
Yeah, so the process of making these is basically, we get the GoPro out. Someone who holds that GoPro on that pole above their head like this, scrunches down so they don't see their face on the Google Street View, and everybody runs behind trees and hides. They take a picture, everybody goes back, we walk along, probably like at fairly equal increments, probably like 50, 60 feet, then we take another picture. We do that for the entire trail, and the program that we use, it's a web browser-based program called Go Through, and since, like Spencer mentioned, the GoPros take pictures and they have GPS coordinates built into them, you can put the photos, albeit you have to number them in order of which you want the program to recognize them, so like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so on. And then it recognizes that, and it automatically puts the points on the GPS locations on the map. And all you have to do is correct the ways that the clickable arrows will work on Google Street View. And then it takes a few days to automatically blur things like the bottom of the camera where you're standing so you don't show up, and for people to review the photos before they go onto the Google Street View.
Yeah, that's the process. Yes.
So now that the Forest Service can do whatever they want with Pat's Lake, has Tori told you what she intends to do, and how are you gonna help her with that?
I think that might be a Dory question.
He's harassing me. We talked a little bit about what we could do. So I'm actually glad you asked, because it talks about the continuation of the program. And during the school year, with Heather's help, we are going to try to look at Pat's Lake, and we're talking about what kind of developments we want to do there. We want to have a trail around, so we're going to look at the landscape to see where it would be easiest to build. We would like to create a forum for our public to be able to say, yeah, these are great ideas, and give us public comments, and have it be a lot easier than a lot of our Forest Service process can be, and have a lot of really good photographs and maps and that sort of thing associated with that, so people know what they're looking at, where it is, and what we intend to build there, and what we could do. And some of the work that they just did on the cabin, like I think it was, I can't remember who was telling us about dividing up the grid and having a what do we call it? I basically want a map of what a footprint of a cabin would look like, so that we could say, when we have a new cabin idea, this is generally what your footprint would look like, and this is what you would have there, and this is what you can expect. And so they're helping us create that, so we can use that in our planning. Pretty cool.
Okay. Anything else? Yes.
Okay, so in your process, when you're doing this, do you brainstorm ideas for the videos of what you would like to see? Do you guys just work with inspiration when you get out in the field? This would be cool. Do you say, I saw this in a movie once and I think this would be a really good way to do it? What's your process for the filmmaking aspect?
Yeah, good. That is an excellent question. I have done a lot of filmmaking with drones, so I think I can answer this one. So, when you say filmmaking, are you meaning like editing the videos together, or just
making? You're out shooting the actual footage,
okay,
that part of it, and then thinking about the future production and the editing.
I think it's kind of both. It is like we go in and then we see like all the raw material and we're like, wow, that's really cool. I can't wait to like take a circle picture with my drone. I have done that before. But yeah, we usually go in and we come up with good ideas while we're going. If not, we do probably like a team gathering saying like, okay, what do we want? What does the Forest Service want? What should we do? Like, what's our main objective? And then after that, we kind of just goof around and have fun.
I'll follow up a little bit on post-production. And so I basically man that editing using DaVinci Resolve. You might have heard of it or not. But yeah, so basically how we do this is sort of a musical aspect as a guy. Pep band, pep band, pep band, pep band, pep band. We're all musical people, right? So we usually get like Epidemic Sound, pull a file from there and say, okay, let's fit this to the beat, okay? And so we just drag in our raw clips, just like line them up to the beat and transition from there. That's basically how we do it. And then of course make it look fancy. But yeah, that's our post-production. Yes?
Was the drone that you guys used, if it inadvertently landed in the water, would that have done it in, or would it survive something like
Well, we had one incident. We had one incident back at the LeConte trip, actually. And one of our drones, we were pretty sure was hit by a seagull, and the last thing we saw in the image was blue and bubbles. So it did not survive. It floated 800 feet down to the ocean floor. But yeah, water and technology don't go together very well, and I wish they did.
That's seagulls too now.
Yep.
I heard another drone that got hit out by a seagull.
Yeah, looking at you, man. Yes.
I had a question. So you guys are doing aerial drones. Is there anything in the future to do underwater droning?
That
Because
is
they do make those and they're really cool.
Now, that is something we're gonna have to research, because that would be really
Yes.
cool to map like a topographic map.
Right,
of
wouldn't that be
channel.
awesome?
Yeah, and like get updated like depth for like fishermen or something. I mean, world's constantly changing, depths are constantly changing. Thanks for the idea, writing that down. Anything else, anything else? Or, yes.
I want to hear each of your favorite trips that you've done, or like piece of each of the trips. Like obviously you all probably don't love this one, or maybe you do, but what was your favorite thing you've done of all the things you shared with us?
Does this include the 5-week program to Maui? Okay, I'm just gonna say that, because that was literally awesome.
Yeah, I don't think any, I mean, all the trips that we did, LeConte, Burke Bay, Steamer Bay, Kunk Lake, were really cool, but it was nothing compared to the awesome experience we had at the 5-week program. So I'm not like invalidating all the other trips, but this one was just so far above and all the experiences that we had. And yeah, that was definitely my favorite.
Yeah, I wasn't on that trip. I was on Denali, so I can't really say anything about that. Probably my favorite would be Berg Bay, because there's just a lot of familiar scenery. And if not, that would, my top second or first would be Denali, because that looked absolutely amazing. Followed the Telecanica River, and yeah, it was really cool.
Definitely the 5-week trip.
My favorite part of the 5-week trip was, but also most hated, was we did a 4 to 6 hour canoeing trip, which was very fun, but very painful. 6 hours of near constant canoeing on a white waters river was not the best thing to do with a short sleeve shirt and no sunscreen. That was not the greatest, and my arms were sore for the next couple of days, but very fun. Highly recommend going on the Crystal Clearwater river, very fun, highly recommend. But for the past few trips, definitely was at Steamer Bay when all of us were carving together, because I personally made I picked up a piece of driftwood and I started carving it into what was started as a short sword, fairly quickly became more of a rapier, epee fencing kind of thing. Definitely fair part.
You know what they say, close-up is the best experience of the high school person. But, I mean, this day and age, I don't really know if you can compete. But yeah, any more questions? No, none, not one? Okay, cool. That about wraps up our T3 Alliance UAF Upper Bound shebang of a Wrangell adventure. So,